Hello and welcome to the Podcastodon. I'm four skeletons in a trench coat.
I'm both halves of the Virgin Chad meme, and today we're doing strong songs.
All right, so the idea for today is that we are analyzing Bullets by Archive
As a strong song.
as a strong song, and I have a particular point that I was interested in making, and I think that you
And I have the same point that I'm always interested in making.
All right, so the way that Strong Songs usually does this stuff is they usually go through the song mostly in terms of a music theoretical analysis. And I tried to do that. I tried to prepare an episode that was like a music theory analysis of this song because like I know a little music theory, or at least I was confident that I knew a little music theory. And then I realized as I was trying to do that I actually know far less music theory than I thought I did.
Well, I can
Because I have
talk
no
about...
idea what's going on. I mean, I know vaguely what's going on with this song musically, but I couldn't, like, tell you the chords, for example.
Well, I can talk about what bits make my brain go buh.
Yeah, one thing I realized that I can do, though, to some extent, is to speak to the production a little bit, because I have done a bit of production. Like, you've heard, if you are on the Discord and you have the previous episodes of this podcast, you've probably heard the songs that I made at the ends of those episodes. Those were
I made
me.
some of those.
Some of them were you, but I think the
At
later
least
ones.
one.
I think the later ones were all like me messing around with beats in LMMS, so I can kind of speak to what is going on production wise in the song. So that's what I decided to focus
I
on for
need to
this
make more
episode.
songs for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's
So you
talk
can
about
talk about...
let's talk about the production. Oh, before we get like deep into the analysis of this, I want to like give a little bit of background, I guess. So, if you look up Archive on Wikipedia, it lists their genres as like prog rock and I think synth rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make the case that this is actually not the genre of this song. I mean, it kind of is, but I think this is actually a different genre, and we'll get into it. But that's
Is it... You're not going to say it's no wave, right?
it's not no wave, no.
Good, good.
But we'll get into it. Okay, so we start off with this like little ambient sample that kind of leads us into the song.
And then you get
And
the little
already
keyboard progression.
yeah, then you get the little keyboard progression, and it's extremely sparse at the beginning. It's just keyboard and vocals, and the way that this song works is basically they build up more and more layers as the song goes on. And so this is a very common technique in a lot of different music genres. Like it's used everywhere from like uh, metal to like classical music. It goes all the way back to the idea of a fugue in classical music, where the sort of the rule of a fugue is that the instruments come in, the different voices come in like in order. So you have, I say in order as if there's some kind of defined order, but the different voices come in one at a time. So that's kind of what Archive is doing a little bit with this song, where they start with just one element, the keyboard, and then they bring in the vocals.
Yes.
And they're just slowly layering more and more elements as the song goes on, so it creates this kind of building effect.
You can't forget the low hum in the background in addition to the keyboard.
I actually didn't notice that when I listened to this.
Well, at least I believe there's some kind of like a rumble or a hum or a second sound happening even when it's just the keyboard.
It's very possible,
Uh,
but at the very least, the keyboard is the main thing that's going on there.
the way I would describe it is it's like cold and tense and kind of melancholy.
Yeah.
It's building up to something you don't know what, and like you're waiting to find out.
Yeah. So then
But it doesn't. It's not happy.
yeah. So then the vocals start, and we have these kind of like weird, nonsensical lyrics,
Okay,
but kind of
this
they
is what
kind of make sense, but they're
I
those
would
lyrics
argue
that kind
that
of imply something,
I
but
would
they're not
argue that
entirely
this
coherent.
first verse is the key to, because I have a lot of opinions about the lyrics. I would argue
Okay.
that this first verse is the key to the whole song thematically.
Okay.
So it's come touch me like I'm an ordinary man, have a look in my eyes. Underneath my skin there is a violence, it's got a gun in its hand. So basically, this guy, I would consider this a sex song, or possibly a love song, against the backdrop of just total paranoia. Right? So, like, the whole, even the first line, come touch me like I'm an ordinary man, that's almost like normal song content. But then
Yeah.
you, like, at the end, like I'm an ordinary, it's like that
It's
specific
not
idea of touch, like I'm an ordinary, he's not even trying to get, like, love or validation or anything. He just wants to seem normal.
yeah.
And I'm going to say this is a heterosexual male singer female lust object song because that's just what it feels like to me. Like, I feel like, I don't know, this doesn't feel gay, is what I'm saying.
Maybe. I think that
It
I
feels masculine and not gay.
yeah, the line come touch me like I'm an ordinary man is very powerful because it implies something, right? It's like
Yeah.
what
The stuff that this guy
what the
wants
guy
is just
what
like
this guy
so
wants.
small and yet so unachievable.
Yeah.
So this is another point. This is another point, right? When I said it's not homosexual, I just feel like you don't get this level of disconnect if it's a same-sex relationship just by virtue of like the fact that you're both part of a marginalized community has some like inherent level of togetherness
Hmm.
that you wouldn't get disconnect like I feel a total and extreme disconnect from the relationship in this song.
Yeah.
Like they might be fucking but they do not understand each other.
Yeah. Well,
So that's
the object of the main character's or of the singer's attraction is barely mentioned, right?
yes.
Like this is
And
a
again
song
this
about him. This is not about his partner.
and that again because I think that that's part of the thing is that he doesn't, it's, I would argue it's like it's not a narcissistic thing. He's trapped inside his own head.
Yeah.
That's why he needs to feel normal.
Yeah.
He needs, I'm going to get to this theme I think more later, but in an episode that was not in the like aired podcast, I had this like theory about e-girls and like porn and associated stuff, and your typical doomer, because I feel this is a
Yeah.
doomer song.
Yeah.
Your typical doomer may like obsessively follow e-girls, but he like that's like a glimpse of a world that's totally alien to him, right? Like you've got guys who are like mentally all in the bleakness and the like rundown concrete buildings and the gravel and the like trash can fires. And then when it comes to their like, as I say, lust objects, it's all like happiness and neon gamer lights,
Hmm.
right? And cat ears.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the next line.
Yeah.
This bit is very important, but underneath my skin there's a violence. It's got a gun in its hand. That's the second part. This is what's isolating him. Is that he is paranoid, he is violent, and he is ready for some kind of like attack that's coming. That's why he can't be normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, even when he doesn't have a gun in his hand, he's always got the gun in his hand.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not going to do any gun penis imagery in this discussion because that's hacky and played out.
Okay.
All right.
Um,
Then the bridge.
ready to take on anyone, anything, and there's like, but
Ready to make sense of anyone, anything.
right. That's what he says. Yeah.
Yeah. What were you going to say about it? Because that's the next part.
Okay. So when he says ready to make sense of anyone, anything, that's where like it starts kind of building more layers because it introduces vocal harmonies with that phrase.
Yeah.
So it's just getting at what I said before. This song is a like it's a gradual
few.
process of building more and more layers.
And the harmonies make the phrases anyone and anything bleed into each other, so it makes it sound like it's going to go on forever.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I'd like to talk about is that ready to make sense of anyone and anything. That's like a reference to killing someone. Like, people are complicated, but when they're dead, they're real simple, right?
Mm.
And like human interactions that are not explicitly adversarial, that are not just violence, are much more complicated than just violence.
Well, the way that I sort of took that line was like ready to make sense of anyone, anything is like people interpret the actions of those around them often in a way that favors them
Mm-hmm.
or that at least fits into what they expect and their worldview. That's sort of what I thought that was going for. Like,
Yeah.
this guy's maybe gonna do some bad shit and then make stuff up to justify it.
See, as I said, I don't see it that way. The idea that he's ready to make sense of anyone and anything, in my mind, is that he is like raring to flip from this like complicated world of people interacting with each other to the pure, simple world of the struggle to survive.
That also seems like a plausible reading of the line.
And also the fact that it all bleeds together, like how he can't finish the whole ready to make bit, where it
Yeah.
goes ready to make sense of anyone, anything, and then just anyone, anything just keeps going like it goes forever.
Hmm.
In my mind, that's like a glimpse into what's going on, like inside his mind all the time.
Hmm.
Is that when it's like the being ready to, in scare quotes, make sense of anyone and anything. That's his permanent state.
Yeah.
And all of this, the sex stuff is trying to escape that.
Yeah. And then the vocal harmony like adds this like extra layer of sort of anguish on it
Well, I thought the
and
purpose was to make all
disconnection.
of the words bleed into each other.
Yeah,
So it
well,
feels like
it does that. It
continuous.
does that, but it's also like a kind of spicy harmony, right? It adds a lot of tension.
Yeah. So the next bit is this is the bit where we get the music hasn't changed between the bridge and the pre-chorus, but this is where we get the reference to the bullets of the song title. Black holes living in the side of your face, laser wire spinning around your, and then it kind of breaks down around your blistering sky. The way I envisioned this scene is that he is like he's looking into the face of his love object and his like lust object, and his like mental state is I'm not going to say he's having a flashback, but his mental state is not working. He looks into her face and he only sees black holes and razor wire. He he sees no humanity there. He can't see the humanity.
Hmm.
And then the bit where it just goes to around your is like he's still fixated on this person, this woman, but like not able to do anything coherent with it. And then blistering sky comes in, which I thought was just like a reference to like gunfire or like anti-aircraft fire, like yeah, like stuff going off, shrapnel, projectiles,
Mm-hmm.
like it's making the sky it's making the sky like ripple and disturbing the air.
Yeah.
And then yeah, bullets are the beauty of the blistering sky, bullets are the beauty and I don't know why. Bullets are the beauty and I don't know why is another key line, right?
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be an ordinary man, he wants to be normal, but at the same time, and it's not just that he has this like this paranoid urge, this violent urge. It's beautiful to him. He loves the violence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's holding him back from being normal, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any other interpretations of the pre-chorus?
Um, there's also the bit where they say personal responsibility over and over.
Oh, that's okay. In the version I'm using, that's structured as part of the chorus.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, and then the
Um,
piano comes back in.
yeah, and it gets kind of quiet.
So with the lyric sheet I've got, it says it's personal responsibility, and then in the background, insanity. Do you hear that?
I don't remember that, but there's a
I
lot.
just there's something going on in the background.
Yeah.
But the line personal responsibility, that's another great one here. Because like the protagonist, he's trying to do he wants to do the responsible thing. That's how I interpreted it. But you know, that could mean different things. Maybe the responsible thing is to be a normal man, to have a relationship, to put the bullets away. But you know, there's the other interpretation that the responsible thing to do is to go fight, you know, his enemies, like solve his problems, make sense of things.
Yeah. Don't I just want to say, like, apart from the context of the song, the sort of vibe of this sort of sad music with somebody saying personal responsibility over and over is just very 2020s, even though this song
Yeah,
wasn't made recently.
mhm.
Like, it
But it's
it reminds me.
if it feels soul crushing, it should.
Yeah, but it reminds me of, like, the discourse.
Yes,
you
you have
know
to be listen.
like,
You have to be socially responsible. You have to be
well,
personally
but
responsible,
also, like,
and no
well,
one can agree what that means.
partially it reminds me of, like, the nobody wants to work anymore stuff, and, like,
Yeah.
the you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, personal
Hmm.
responsibility.
But on the
um
other side of
but
that,
it's also like, yeah, it's also like you have to, no,
you have
you gotta
you got to
fight for,
help
like, you gotta help the cause, help make society better,
help save the planet.
help save the planet, even though you don't necessarily know
How,
how to do that, or if you can even trust, like, half of the
yeah,
information that's out there on how to do that. um and like,
it's a weight.
yeah, it's a weight, it's a burden. um
And everybody, as we've established, every faction wants you to be responsible, but they
yeah,
don't agree what that means. And
yeah,
this guy, he's totally lost. He wants to be responsible,
yeah,
but he doesn't know how.
yeah, he
Because
doesn't know what that means.
is it responsible to, on one hand, is it responsible to live a life of violence, or is it responsible to just walk away from that violence and like stop caring? Because those both seem pretty irresponsible to me. You know,
What do you mean to stop caring? Like,
like to put that all away and like, you know, go have a relationship. Presumably, you were involved in that violence for various reasons, and like,
hmm,
it's not just if you pretend, if you go do other things, those reasons are still gonna be there.
yeah,
Like that could come back to haunt you.
yeah.
Sometimes it's bad to
Possibly.
leave you. Sometimes it's bad to leave your enemies alive, is what I'm saying.
Hmm. Yeah, I think
Look,
that there's also an element of like, for better or worse, like this is a part of who he is, and
yeah,
to like suppress that is, I feel like the choices that he's giving himself here are to
bad.
either suppress like the the part of him
The
that,
basic nature of who he is.
well, to suppress the part of him that is violent and is paranoid about things, and like try to sort of pretend that it doesn't exist, or to give into it completely and go and like kill people.
I don't
And
want to say just kill people because that, like, the way it's described, it doesn't seem to be a question of like going on a mass shooting. He appears to be involved in like it's like a specific struggle between groups, if only because they keep talking about responsibility.
hmm.
Like I feel
Oh,
like there are
okay.
goals.
I see what you're getting at now.
The violence does not seem arbitrary
Yeah.
in that there's the constant discussion of responsibility,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because people like to talk about arbitrary violence, but I think that's partially because people are afraid of the idea that violence is not arbitrary. Like people don't want to put themselves in the headspace where like fighting seems like the
Yeah.
right choice.
They don't want to consider the possibility that maybe violence is the answer.
All right, on to verse
All right.
2.
So at this point, I forget whether it's the the vocals come in before or after this, but I think at this point the drums come in.
Yes, the drums do come in.
Yeah. So I want to talk
Very
about the
like,
drums. I want to talk about the drums real quick because as somebody who has experience making drums, uh,
well, drum machine
yeah,
sounds.
yeah. But so the drums sound programmed in this. They don't sound like live drums. There are two very interesting things going on here. There's a huge amount of reverb on the kick because up to this point the song hasn't had very much low end, so it kind of fills out the low end by making the kick sound really big.
Yeah.
And then the snare sounds really small. The snare is like tiny. And the reason I think that they did that, is so that it wouldn't fight the other stuff in the mix. So you've got like the mid, like there's lots of stuff going on in the mid range in this song. You've got the piano, you've got the vocals, you've got other stuff that comes in later. And so if the snare was in the mid range, then it would fight all of those other things. So they made the snare really high, and they took out a lot, like they took a lot of the like juice out of it, because otherwise it would fight all of the other stuff that's going on in the song. It's pretty clever. But the effect of this is that if you listen to the snare by itself, it sounds like shit, but it's fine because it exists in the context of all of this other stuff that's going on in the song.
I mean, you've got the kick, which is just like really sounds like the speaker is popping.
Yeah, the kick is huge.
Like
Because
that's. Do
there's
you
no
agree
real
that it
bass
sounds
in this song, so it kind of has to do the work of the bass as well.
Do you agree that it sounds well? The guy's voice is bassy.
Yeah, but it's not in the, like it's not the bass range. It's not filling the same like sonic role.
Yeah, I would like to add that it's kind of faint for that. I would like to add though that the kick. It sounds, as I say, it sounds like a speaker pop. It sounds like when you unplug a bunch of audio equipment while everything's on. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Um,
And then this kind of this new whooshing sound comes in, or like a theremin, like wee.
oh yeah, that's. I thought that that was earlier in the song as well.
But this is it's a slightly different sound.
Okay.
Like there's one like that in the lead intro, but this one sounds less staticky to me, more smooth.
Mm,
Anyway, it serves as a transition into the verse.
yeah.
So again, I dislike the version of the lyric sheet that I'm working with because it's not what I hear. Their version says um, confine me, but I swear it's come find me, which would go with all of the other things that start with come in this song,
Hmm.
because it's like come touch me, come and make me a martyr. So it should be
Yeah.
come find me. Come find me, let me be the lesser of a beautiful man without the blood on his hands. That's what we were talking about earlier, you know?
Yeah.
About this guy, if he puts away his violence, if he puts away his paranoia, if he tries to be that ordinary man, he's never going to be good at it. He's just going to be the worst copy of other better people,
Hmm.
right? He's a bad man, presumably, and can never be a good man. And he's never going to be good at being, well, a civilized man,
Hmm.
you know? And this is something I've noticed from my admittedly limited experiences in dating, is the feeling that I'm trying to be the copy of a more attractive dude, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
A more together, more fun guy. And while I do not have physical blood on my hands, I have a lot of mental blood on my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like civilized. They want a civilized man because like we're sometimes chicks dig like action heroes in the movies, but if you get like an actually genuinely dangerous guy, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
And then come and make me a martyr, come and break my feeling with your violence with the gun and put the gun in my hand. Okay, this is another bit where we're getting very Freudian, but I'm not going to make the obvious gun penis thing. So,
He wants to be pegged. That's what this
no,
has to
it's
mean.
put the gun in my hand, not put the gun
Okay,
in
so you're
me.
saying this is not gay? You were saying
I I believe this is an intensely heterosexual
I
uh
I
song.
I don't believe you.
Look, I
After
I know about
that particular line, I don't believe you.
so first of all, what he means, I think what he meant when I put the gun in my hand, because again, we're not doing gun penis stuff. It is like it is to make him potent again. So
Oh, I see.
so first of all, come and make me a martyr. Um, first of all, the way I see that, that could be two interpretations. One is like she is going to like hurt him emotionally. He is going to suffer like emotionally.
Yeah.
He is going to be murdered for lust.
Hmm.
Or it's
Hence
like
why
a
I
semi yeah.
hence why I say it's like it's like a bottom thing. Like he wants to be pegged.
No, I
This
disagree,
I
but
think it means that he wants to be pegged really hard.
I'm getting with this. Um, so one of the, come and break my feeling with your violence. So
See?
here's one of the I have a totally different interpretation of this. So the way I see it, as a guy of a certain generation that has a certain attitude towards sex, I associate it with giving up control. Not letting other people have control over you, but giving up control over yourself.
Hmm.
Like you there's all of this like decorum in life about again, especially for guys of my generation, there's this feeling of like don't do stay hidden, stay like away from people, and whatever you do, like don't come across as a sexual being.
Hmm.
That's bad.
Hmm.
Like, not even to other people, just like to yourself. Like, it's bad. That's bad control.
Hmm.
And so the come and make me a mother, come and break my feeling with your violence. Put the gun in my hand is like you are with this the sex. The guy is like breaking his like his all of he's suppressed the violence urge, and like the sex drive is like the return of something equivalent to that, and all of the like this it's like a crack to the character. It's like a crack in the shell he has built up. To be sexual again would be like being violent again.
Mm.
You know, it's put the gun in my hand is to like all of this like the even just like the 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 physical response that the woman provokes in the main character is return. It feels like he is returning to his state of being a like base violent creature, even though what he's actually feeling is the sex drive. The sex drive and the death drive feel the same, or rather the two things that you're societally supposed to suppress. You know. And then my last take on Make Me a Martyr is like, if basically most women don't want to admit that they're in a relationship with a cold-blooded killer, so they have to rationalize it. Like, if you like are in an emotional thing with me, then you can construe me as a victim, as a martyr, as damaged goods, and you'll like feel a responsibility to take care of me. And that means that I'm not like that I don't have to be what I think I am.
Mm.
Which is, as I say, this base, violent, twitchy thing.
Yeah.
You like those takes?
I think that those are valid readings of the song.
But you think it's about subbing.
I think I think that I think that you could there is it is I don't think this is a likely reading, but I choose to interpret "Make Me a Martyr." Uh, what was the whole
Come and make
verse?
me a martyr.
Come and make
Come
me
and
a
break
martyr.
my feeling
Come and break my feeling
with your
with your
violence.
violence. Yeah,
Put the gun in my hand.
yeah. I think that this that you could also read that as "I want to be pegged so hard I die."
See, this guy, as I say, I think that this also being pegged is not gay if a woman is doing it.
This is true.
You said it was gay earlier.
It could also be it could also be gay.
Look, I am an authority on this. I know what things are gay and what things are not. And it's only gay if someone of the same sex is involved.
No. I mean that you could also potentially read it as someone of the same sex being involved.
Yes. So, I was going to say one last. So, yeah, I see this as like, in whole, the two lines are like about like the death of the ego and the super ego, the destruction of them with like, I don't want to say sexual violence, but because that means something else, but like
Yeah.
with her violence, with like whatever the appropriate euphemism quotes are there,
Yeah.
that leads to like, yeah, ego death and super ego death. And now he's just back to being id. even though the id now wants sex instead of violence.
Mm-hmm.
To quote Death Grips, going higher and higher, lights look like they're on fire, and all that remains is your most primal desire. But that was about drugs, but yeah.
Yeah, but anyway.
But there was a weird sound effect, and then it's ready to take out anyone, anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And this, in my mind, this means the same thing as him saying "make sense of."
Yeah. Okay.
To take someone out is just to make
Yeah.
sense of someone is just to take them out.
Yeah.
And as I say, that's back to just like the underlying current of violence that is this guy's like mental soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just a sec. And then we're gonna go back to the pre-chorus.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that there's some strings now. Or like synth strings.
Yeah. The song gets
You
like
remember
really but the song gets like really big.
Yeah.
And
this is why I think of it as a sex song, because it like builds up and climaxes and then slows down again.
Okay.
And then the chorus,
and then
there's some
we get
like
the chorus again.
and some like chuggy stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about with the chuggy stuff, right? Like the guitar kind of
there's
thing.
The guitar is really low in the mix. And
but it's there.
Yeah, it's there to provide another layer.
Oh, and then it hits at like 3:30. There's the instrumental. You remember?
There's okay. Is this the distorted synths then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The distorted. That's what I was talking about when the big distorted synths come in.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that sounds like someone crying in the background.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about then?
So, see what I mean about it layering more and more
yes,
elements.
It's
So it's just continuing to do that. What I was going to say was, even though this technically has like verse, chorus, bridge,
yeah,
the typical pop song structure in regard to the vocals, I think that this is actually kind of a post-rock song. Because it has the typical post-rock structure in the sense that it starts out very minimalistic and quiet and builds in more and more instruments very slowly over the course of the song. It also features typical post-rock instrumentation in that it's largely electronic with a little bit of guitar and like some drum machine drums, but it's mostly it's less driven by like riffs and rhythm and more driven by texture. So that's my argument, is that in spirit this is a post-rock song. I don't know if you would technically consider it one, but I would say at least it borrows kind of the vibe of post-rock.
Okay. I'm not a post-rock expert, but from what I know about post-rock, I can see it.
If you've ever listened to like 65 Days of Static, this
No.
feels a lot like a 65 Days of Static song.
All right. So then we're back to the pre-chorus, which is the same as before.
The pre-chorus is just the personal responsibility.
No, this is the laser wire spinning around you.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice this until now, but there's like an additional female voice doing the around your in the background, which once again confirms the fact that you have the male and the female voices kind of playing off of each other confirms my theory that this is a sex thing. Okay, and then it's just personal responsibility for a while.
Yeah.
because we've discussed the meaning of the personal responsibility. Oh, and then the instrumentation kind of drops out,
Yeah.
and then there's a ghost noise, like a woo.
Yeah, and
You know?
that kind of cuts off at the end, right?
Yeah, and then it
Yeah.
kicks back in because as I see it, like there's a moment where as this song goes on, even though there's all this like doubt and contemplation and stuff, towards the end where it like really kicks in, like the guy's surrendering more to his id and he's feeling it and stuff, you know?
Hmm.
That's what it seems like to me. Where he feels the same things, but he feels better about it because he's in the groove,
Hmm.
right? And then there's this dropout where it's contemplative again, and then it kicks back in, and it's like fuck yeah, and he's like, it's still talking about personal responsibility, but this time the personal responsibility is awesome. And then there's this thing in the background which kind of does sound like insanity.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is insanity, that works nicely too, because I think the guy cannot distinguish responsibility from insanity. You know,
Yeah.
if he is,
And then the rest of the song is just kind of this, right?
yeah, and then it just goes to there's a little bit on the outro. It's a heavily distorted personal responsibility, and it kind of sounds like the song went to sleep. Like that's what the fade out feels like to me.
Yeah. And then there's like some, maybe this is only in the music video, but there's like some stuff at the end that gets cut off.
Well, in my version, it's just like the super distorted last
Okay.
personal responsibility, and then it fades out.
Okay. Yeah. So I think the other point that I wanted to make about this song was the production in this song is just really, really good. And I think that that actually kind of, it maybe kind of works against the message of the song a little bit.
Oh, I would argue
Um,
that it works great for the song
so the thing that's going
because
on
of the
is
like
like,
coldness of the whole thing.
hmm,
It's so slick,
yeah,
it's like unemotional, and that
yeah,
conveys the dis. You know what it reminds me of? And this is going to sound batshit insane. So, you know how when you're beating off, even when it's good, it's kind of sad? Like there is a joy in this, but it is a cold, not comforting joy, not comforting happiness.
I think that might be a guy thing. I
Oh, it is a guy. My whole interpretation of this, basically everything I say about the libido, everything I say about sex, comes from a position of mind where the sex drive is like an alien thing you're cohabitating with.
yeah, because that's kind of how modern culture understands the male sex drive. Is it's something that's either uncontrollable that you have to restrain or give into. It's either
Mhm.
that or something that is bad.
Okay, conclusions. It's about, in my mind, this song is about wanting to fuck and also wanting to fight and also wanting to keep those two things suppressed and being worried about the ways they intersect with each other.
Yeah. Conclusions. For me, this is a post rock song, if not literally in genre, at least in spirit.
Yes. Would this
Anything
is
else?
um if you want to know what is going through the head of your typical bitter like unfortunate simp, it kind of sounds like this,
Okay.
or at least the kind of simp that I know about.
Thought you were gonna say the kind of simp that I am.
See, I am not a simp. E-girls did not ruin.
So the
Are not
basic
ruining my life. I ruined my life. Remember?
so the basic lesson of this as a whole is that simping ain't easy.
Yeah, and the sexuality of the 21st century man is distinct and different and kind of sadder than that of the generations to come before him.
Hmm.
And this song captures it very nicely. And also, I think more guys want to throw everything away and become guerrilla fighters than, like, you might think.
Well, fighting gorillas is rather difficult, so
I have something years of experience in guerrilla warfare, like in the Navy SEAL copy pasta. Anyway, I've been both halves of the Virgin Chad meme, especially during this episode.
I've been four skeletons in a trench coat.
And this has been Podcasted On. There are over 2 million active podcasts in the world. Thank you for listening to this one.
Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next month.